And that portal between our legs is the portal between the unborn and the living.
It's truly a superpower when we fully understand our cycles and how to embrace and leverage the gifts of each phase of the cycle.
When you can instead see your partner as someone who's ever evolving, and also the self-fulfilling prophecy of when you're witnessing someone and going, you are always evolving. You are always changing. You're becoming even more of yourself, right? That devotion to being they're discovering their greatness. Well, just by believing that about them, they inherently will start to discover themselves differently.
Today I'm talking with the lovely Amanda Rassam. Amanda is a multidimensional mama who works with women and the rising feminine, helping you create an ecstatic life of your own play, magic, and medicine. With the use of sound alchemy, Eros, ENLP, and somatic modalities, as well as plant medicines, she supports you to integrate all of who you are to offer a deeper sense of joy and freedom. A coach, artist, podcaster, space holder, and trip setter, let her be the permission piece that life emerges greater than ever before after children. In this conversation, we explore devotion in many forms, motherhood, the art of surrender, relationships, and more. Let's dive in. Hey, Amanda.
Hi, Cassidy. How are you?
Amazing. It's so good to be with you today.
Absolutely. It's a blessing.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a question that I wouldn't normally ask people because I don't necessarily want your whole backstory, but I feel like asking you this.
Cool.
Who are you? Who is Amanda?
Oh my goodness. Well, Amanda is ever changing. She's a multidimensional mama. And I feel like motherhood was the portal into really revealing to me just how, funny enough, how little I knew about myself. And that was a funny moment. I remember having my baby in my arms and looking back at some of my old social media posts where I was speaking so confidently. And I remember looking at me and being like, bitch, you knew nothing. I was like, God, you're confident for someone who knows nothing, And
humbling.
Yeah, it was one of those moments of, and I mean, I really need to give my past self far more credit. I definitely had a really good perspective of the world and good head on my shoulders, but really, I think what I had really never experienced in my life was genuine sacrifice and what it means to create what it means to choose devotion in that sacrifice. I think in the past, I had this view of sacrifice, or I just really didn't have a lived experience of it. I mean, I'd witnessed it, or I'd seen other people's experiences of martyrdom, but there was something different about a sacred sacrifice and what it means to really sacrifice your body, and not from the perspective of, a lot of, sometimes the older generation, you can hear them say some pretty hard stuff I sacrificed my body to have a baby. And it's not so much about oh, my body looked one way and now it looks a different way, and I quote unquote sacrificed how sexually viable I looked, from societal standards. It's sacrifice being yeah, my body expanded at a rate that I've never expanded before. And my bones expanded, and my breasts expanded, and my hair fell out, and it's it hurt to walk, and I had to pee all the time. And just the level of you just realize you're wow, this is humbling, because I'm creating life, but I'm actually in a big way dying. And just having those moments of being in bed and being in my third trimester, being so huge, and trying to roll over and being oh my God, is this how people feel when they're 90 years old and they can't move anymore? It was so humbling to really remember my body is so incredible, and to just never take my body for granted. and yet to also see how deep a sacrifice I was making in my body, because maybe not everyone feels as intensely as I do, and that's totally all right. But for me, it was like, this is a really big undertaking for me to really feel all of this so intensely. And
Mm.
so, in that shift of motherhood, I mean, I went from being someone who, you know, did all the right things, went to school and got my degrees and studied psychology and communications and continued that with my NLP and ENLP trainings, coaching trainings, and then yoga teacher trainings, and just all these experiences to really like beef up my academic self and really be like, oh, I know a lot of things. This is all my experiences that I know. And and I mean, in a lot of ways, there was so much that I could impart on people to help them change their lives. And I was coaching couples with my partner Roberto. We were running the Fire Starter program. It was a super successful program, helping singles and couples really discover their authentic expression and their sovereign selves amidst a time where that was such a challenge for so many people. Um, so incredibly like rewarding work. And then once I got pregnant, I was like, I want to do none of this anymore. I was like, I can't, and I couldn't explain it because we were doing this, things were taking off, we were doing well, and I just felt like there was this huge, again, this death of self and identity, and learning now that that's such a common experience in the transition through motherhood, because you are changing. Everything about you is changing, and and you're looking at everything in front of you from perceivably the moment that you even conceive. You're starting to now go through the story of your life from conception.
Mm.
If you want to, right? Some people never do this spiritual work. They never even look at this. But if you do this work, it is a lot to look at, because you're looking at,
Right.
what was it like to be conceived? What was the texture, the energy of my parents when that was happening? What was it
Mhm.
like during pregnancy? What was it like in those first years of birth? First years of like, of life. And, especially if you have siblings, it's like, what were those interfamily systems like? And so you just start pulling apart everything, and you realize how much of yourself is by a certain design, and there's an opportunity to really look at it and choose different, not only for yourself but more importantly really for the legacy you're creating. And this is where I feel like I've been really exploring and understanding a deeper level of devotion, and how to see my work not as something that I go, online or go and create a program for, but really my work is like my every breath.
Mm.
And my work is like, I am a living prayer of my work. And looking at my child, like my children, I say to them, like, you're a result of all of my best decisions. And being able to keep that always going, I mean, that is work.
Oh
There's
yeah.
no days off. Right? So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'm sure I'll get into like all the things I'm quote unquote doing now, but I mean, that's the elevator pitch introduction to me.
Amazing. Oh, so many things to unpack in all of
Yeah.
that. I love it so much. Um, but I want to start with devotion because just just hearing that word expands my heart and lights me up.
Yeah.
It's really one of my most favorite concepts and practices is
Yeah.
devotion. And the work that I do, um, a lot of it has a foundation in tantra, and that's like a core principle, a core philosophy in tantra is the practice of living devotion.
Hmm.
Devotion to the truth, really. It's like the truth in every moment, and just like devotion to that above everything, even if that's hard, if it's blissful, whatever, like that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the truth in this, in this, and this.
Yeah.
um, and I loved hearing you say that you were in motherhood choosing a devotion to sacrifice. And I love that because, like you said, it is fairly common to see this experience of martyrdom. And, no judgment, like, yeah, it's hard. And so I totally understand that that is a lot of people's experience.
Yeah.
But what if we can just be devoted to what we're choosing? It's like to choose something halfway and then resist it,
Yeah.
you know, just creates so much mm,
Yeah. Yeah,
not great feeling. But to choose fully and then be devoted to that.
for sure. And to be okay with the fact that it's like when we make a choice, it's not like a linear path of I made the choice and now it's done and now there's nothing to confront again. Like it's like that living prayer, that devotion is that every day you're coming up against the places you're not accepting and that you're resisting because you're like, this is not what I wanted. Because your inner child is having to heal alongside another child who needs you to adult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like it's like you're hitting your shit. And even the most saintly person, they're still human.
Hmm.
So it's like, it's looking at all of those like shadows and the darkness and the inner child within us that is hidden, that's been hidden because it's not had this super direct mirror of someone who you're ultimately, I think in like the most like highest alignment, it's like your child, assuming that it's like you're giving all of your love, your most unconditional love to this person. It's like it doesn't actually matter whether you want to face yourself or not. You're choosing to because you love them so much that you're willing to do that.
Hmm.
And there's, I think, for a lot of people, so much shame in the times that they feel they can't. They're like,
Hmm.
I want to choose this person. I love this person, but they're so stuck. And there's so much shame in like the humanity of that and the humility of that, of being like, even the people who are, the quote unquote best at doing the work are going to come up against their demons and dragons. It's impossible to avoid because we're walking the spiritual path of life, and we choose the perfect path to reveal to us all the things we don't want to look at because we want to do it perfectly.
Yep.
So we can be like, oh no, I got this. It's good. Everything's fine. But it's also remembering like motherhood is a journey of your whole life. Like it's not like when they turn 18, it's over. It's like you're still a mother, and now you're watching from like a distance someone make their own choices, and now there's an entire other spiritual journey and egoic peeling back of your desire to control that person. So it's like this is never going to end. Let's just accept and be devoted to the
Hmm.
fact that it's happening and do our best to be in the most joy while it's here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah. And, in my perspective, I've always I've practiced approaching relationship as a path of growth, right? And that's what I teach and what I help people to do as well is like that when you are devoted, devoted to love and devoted to truth, then your relationship is a really powerful path of growth and transformation for that exact reason. It reveals things to you that you wouldn't necessarily be aware of on your own. And I feel like motherhood is like that times 100,000 because because like you're connected at a different level. Like
Yeah.
this human is from you. There is no escaping ever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it would force you to confront anything that needs to be confronted, which is a beautiful opportunity. And I'm
Right.
sure I'm going to be, I'm over 7 months pregnant at this stage. And like you said, looking back at your pre-mother self and being like, oh, look at her. She was so confident. And like, yeah, I'm sure that's going to be me in however much time, like looking back at myself. Oh, oh
Yeah.
goodness. She had no idea.
Yeah. And I
I'm
mean,
here for it.
giving ourselves more credit, right? Because like we are all doing our best, and often our best is actually far better than good enough, and um, we tend to be our toughest critics. So yeah, looking back on like the pre-baby self, it's, easy to kind of be like, oh, like I took for granted that I had so much time. I took for granted like how easy it was to move in my body or whatever, right? But this is also just like the seasons of life, like, and letting go of also that maiden, because I think when we resist letting go of the maiden and we really try to hold on to this, like, I still want to be the child. It's like, you're not the child anymore. Now there is a higher responsibility that you do have to hold. And if we are not prepared to give up that space as that inner child, right? It's like we can really resist and have our own tantrums. And like, I know for me, it's like it's shown up in my relationship, it's shown up in all kinds of places, but being able to have the tools and the mentorship and the help and the people to like really be able to look at those places without shame, because if they're showing up in motherhood, it's like it's more just a reflection of like what was not had in your childhood. And that can be hard. That can be hard to confront, like especially when you're someone who is devotional and you're loving and you're giving something that you were never taught and that you never had, and then going like the grief of, oh, but like I never had that. And then giving it to yourself, because that's the opportunity, right?
Yes. So beautiful. Okay, so part of the work that you do, I think, from my understanding, a big part of the work that you do is working with women and their sexuality and their magic.
Yeah,
And so I'd love to go there. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, why this work, what lights you up about it, what inspires you about it.
absolutely. Yeah, so I help women to create an ecstatic life of their own play, magic, and medicine.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can look like so much, right? Like play, magic, and medicine can happen, yeah, in sexuality. It can happen in artistry. It can happen in motherhood. It can happen anywhere, really, right? But it's really about recognizing that the feminine in us becomes alive through expression, through emotion, through movement. And when we are in that pure feminine energy, that innocence, but also contrastingly that like uncertainty, that darkness, the depth of like all that is.
Yeah.
So intense. Like the feminine is so intense,
So
It's,
wild.
yeah.
So everything.
It is, yeah, exactly. It's like you can't contain it. And um ultimately, I think that from a very young age, I just always had a pulse on just like how powerful sexuality was. I've always been quite an observer of my life. And so like witnessing just like how much attention goes into a woman's sexuality, like how it's marketed and like commoditized, and how it's, consumerism surrounds it. And I was like, what? Like, it's so wild when you think about how objectified it is in a large way at large. And you have to wonder, why does someone want it so bad? Why do they want to control it so bad? And when you start to zoom out and start to peel back the layers, it ultimately comes down to, because it's the most powerful force known to our humanity.
Yes.
And that portal between our legs is the portal between the unborn and the living.
Yeah.
Which I remember when I was pregnant having just this very embodied recognition of like, I am a creator.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, I create from my mind and on paper. It's like, I actually, through my energetic field, bring legitimate life into being. And can bring anything into being. Because if I can bring something that was never there to be, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And being able to use that sexual energy and that inner power for good, and to be able to use it for our deepest heart's desires, our deepest manifestations, um, really is for the good of all. And it becomes another layer of devotion. It's like being devoted to our pleasure as an appreciation, as a prayer, to say, like, I was given this body to experience such deep receptivity, and there's so much power in that. Like, it's like my power comes from how much more I can open, let go, and receive.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I do that, the better I feel, the more orgasmic I am. And the more radiant I am, the more magnetic I am, the happier everyone is around me. Like, it's really quite about us in a big way.
Hey, if you want to connect deeply with your body, navigate your emotions with more ease, tap into your inner wisdom, and expand your capacity for pleasure, then I have just the program for you. Know Your Bliss is my online program that will guide you through a journey of using the power of self-love and pleasure for your healing, growth, and expansion. Join other women on the beautiful path of pleasure and purpose. You can find the link for Know Your Bliss in the description to learn more. That feminine power of opening, surrendering is so magical. And I think it's like one thing, if every woman could just practice that one thing, how much everyone's life changes.
Oh, yeah.
And I just see how, this comes up a lot when I work with clients. So one of the biggest things we work on is letting go of control and surrendering and accepting and just like loosening the grip, and being
Yeah.
able to just flow with what is, enjoy what is, appreciate what is. Again, that devotion, right? Devotion to truth of what's happening within me in this moment. But that surrender shows up then in everything. It's like the same kind of surrender and opening that's required for amazing sex, for bigger orgasms, is the same kind of surrender that, helps you create, that I imagine helps you mother, that helps you,
Mm-hmm.
be in a powerful way in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, more surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to know your your greatest anchor for when there are those moments of gripping to control, and how do you mentally and emotionally and physically navigate those moments for yourself, the way that
Mm.
you speak to your clients. It's like, I'm very curious to know, because I'm sure your listeners are like, how do I do that? How do I let
Right.
go of control?
Yeah.
I don't want to let go of control. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
The thing about control is the part of you that is controlling really doesn't want to stop controlling. Yeah. Well, for me, it all comes back to the body. And the very first sign that I'm starting to cling or trying to control is that I feel my body start to contract, start to close.
Hmm.
That's the very first cue for me, much more than my thoughts, before my actions. It's that energy that is the trigger that starts the rest of the process. So when I work with clients, we really practice feeling the embodied state of what does it feel like when I'm in control?
Mm.
Like, and just being like fully being in that experience in your body and just feeling it to learn that blueprint, so that when that comes up in everyday life, it's like, oh, hey, that's familiar. I know what that is now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's control. And then we really practice, what does it feel like to open? What does it feel like to surrender?
Mm-hmm.
And practice shifting back and forth between those two and just really getting that in the body. Because yes, there are definitely a lot of mental tools that you can use, and it's helpful to notice your thoughts and notice when you're arguing with reality, wanting things to be different, and learn how to turn those thoughts around. That's helpful. But it's like, if you can first notice the energy in your body, then you don't even need to deal with the thoughts because
Yeah,
you're getting ahead of them.
it's so true.
So I think that just that body awareness for me, it's like my body tells me everything.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then just relaxing into the body is
Yeah.
the best medicine for me.
I just had like a vision of like being in the kitchen with Roberto and like us getting into like kind of like a tiff and me just being like, next time I'm just gonna like lie on the floor like in child's pose with my hands up and just be like, I'm going to just humble myself to the fact that like, yeah, there's that like the blood rises and it, like the heat rises and you want to
Mhm.
like, and just being able to cue your body into a pattern interrupt and do something so different. I'm like, I wonder what that would invoke. And I really am.
Yeah. I saw a really awesome video actually that I think is just a really great idea, because in relationship, pattern interrupts are really helpful because we can get into these habitual
Yeah.
patterns and we play our parts so well that it just is so automatic
Hmm.
that having like, yeah, something physical and abrupt to do to interrupt that pattern is so helpful. And one
Hmm.
that I saw was the couple, when they started getting into it, just got down on the floor, laid on their bellies in front of each other. It's just like, just that. Can't take yourself so seriously, when you're just laying on your belly on the floor.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I love that. It's always
I
good to
love
have
that.
a good pattern interrupt.
Thank you. I'm going to totally adopt that. That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Speaking of relationship, I'd love to hear how maybe let's explore the idea of devotion in relationship,
Yeah,
if that feels good.
totally.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you in relationship, devotion?
Well, it's coming from like a family that when I was 13, my parents divorced. Um, it was never like a big dream of mine growing up to like get married. Like I mean, I say that, but I definitely was always like looking for the one. But it was not like I had this like this outward desire to be like, here I am in a dress. Here's my big wedding day. Like it was not
Mhm.
about that. It was about there was definitely a wound of like I want someone to love me so much, but it wasn't like I associated that with marriage.
Mhm.
Marriage still had like a pretty heavy energy around it for me, and only in like recent years like have Roberto and I really like unraveled that and pulled it apart. And honestly, like, so we're not legally married. Like we're, funny enough, like I remember we got a letter in the mail and he's like, congrats, we're common law. Like it's like like we are technically common law, but the the fact is that we've never been like in a ceremony to wed, right? And I think that, funny enough, we've kind of from the start always done things a little bit backwards. Like from the moment we dated, I had a stepson. So it was
Mhm.
like, it wasn't like we were like, hey, like we'll see where this goes. It was like, okay, I like you like me. If we're doing this, we're doing this because there are other people involved, and like I want this and you want this. So like let's make this work. And then very quickly after, we started a business together. So again, there's that deeper enmeshment. And then we moved in together. So it was like these layers and layers and layers of enmeshment that um, continued to bring us into a space of, even though we weren't married, there was many clear indicators of like very deep commitment. And then we decided to have a child. So for me, deciding I'm going to have a child with you was an even deeper card. Like it was like putting all my cards on the table. It was like
Mhm.
weddings, marriages can be ended, but once there's a
Mhm.
child in the experience, you are committing to be with that person for pretty much for life.
Mhm.
Um, and so it was something that I almost felt like marriage wasn't something that I was like, well, I'm clearly devoted, but in recent years have been asking myself, like, well, what does marriage mean to me? And like, what does that devotion look like in relationship? And ultimately, that union is about coming together to find God
Mm-hmm.
and to no matter what, like it's rather than being like the relationship is about longevity where we need to be together forever. It's like we're choosing to be together, and let's hope that that's for all of our lives. And ultimately, our bigger devotion and commitment is to each other's greatness.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the choice to walk in the same direction and choose the same path, and also to honor that the desire to control or have ownership over this person because of a legally binding decision is not a greater, does not weigh heavier than their ultimate sovereignty and choice to be here. And
Mm-hmm.
their choice is ultimately the devotion. It's the choice to be like, I do choose to walk beside you. I do choose to grow beside you. I'm not here because I financially have to be, or because we own a home together, or because, I need you to feel socially validated, or even because we have children. Really, it's like we're here with each other because I believe in you, you're believing in me, and we want the absolute best for each other. And that union that we're creating through this marriage is about a choice to say, through it all, through the messiness, the ickiness, the fights, the like tantrums, the absolute like horrendous like moments where you're like, that is so not me, why did I do that? We're still going, I'm going to find God with you through that.
Yeah, that's the portal right there. That moment of duh. It's exactly where you enter
Yeah.
to, yeah, to find the growth in the moment, to find the divinity in the moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And I
love
think
that.
that the I think that like the crux of it all, or like the thing that like holds it all together, is really whether your partner can, well, both of you, right? It's not just your partner, but whether you can both speak your deepest shame to your partner, like your most vulnerable self, like the part of you that's like,
Mhm.
I never want to look at this. I never want anyone to see this about me. I hate this about myself. But you're willing to go, I'm going to put it on the altar of our relationship, and I'm trusting you with it. And for your partner to then see your shame and to love your shame.
Mhm.
And I'm sure
And to
there are,
not make it about them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's boundaries to that for every relationship. Like you might say, like, this is the extent to which I can do that, right? If you have like a hard limit on like, yeah, I would not be okay with unfaithfulness, or I'd not be okay with abuse. Those things might be your like line in the sand where you say that's where I can no longer um allow this behavior to like be a reason for me to like hold your shame with you. It's like, but for some people that is totally within their desire, like that is their
Mhm.
devotion. So again, it's not about comparing or saying this is right or this is wrong. It's just about recognizing that like you're ultimately in control of those parameters in the union, and deciding like, what are we both consenting to, because we're both showing up with our unique stories, our unique, quote unquote baggage. And in being in the relationship, we're accepting that that's the other person I'm with. And if you're going into that and you're not accepting that to start, well, it's going to be messy for the rest of your relationship, right? But if you can at least say, I know that this is what you've held, I know that this is maybe the shame you've had or the stories you've held, and maybe you've worked through them, or maybe you're still working on them, but I accept that that's part of my path too, to do this with you. That's the sacrifice.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a really important thing to be honest with ourselves about in relationship is um, I see this come up, this subtle thought, this subtle hope people hold of, well, maybe they'll change. Like maybe that will change. And to me, you need to be willing well, you don't need to be, but if if you want
Yeah.
to really go deep in relationship,
Yeah.
then you need to be able to truly accept your partner exactly as they are right now.
Yeah.
And, as a partner who knows this person maybe more deeply than anyone, you can see their greatest self. You can see their highest potential. You can see when they're not acting in alignment with that.
Hmm.
But it's a dangerous thing in relationship to hold this thought of like, you want this thing to change, and like almost like holding out for a change, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, it's a tough thing, but to ask yourself, if this never changed, am I still 100% in this? Can I 100% accept this? And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a hard but really good question for
Yeah.
everyone to ask in relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's like it's a revealing one because, well, I mean, yeah, I'm like just reflecting on that. I'm like, wow, that is a beautiful question. And I think one that actually could just be like a great anchor in those hard moments of just like remembering the devotion to the relationship, and also as a mirror of whether the relationship is in fact not a match, right?
Hmm.
Um, so it can do both.
Yeah.
Powerful tool.
So in your relationship, tell me about what shifted when you brought a baby into it.
Oh my gosh. Like,
What was that experience like?
well, let's see. I'll just share what's coming through, and we'll see if this is like the thing, because it's a little hard to concretize like what is the one thing or the couple things that changed. I mean, because everything changed.
Mm,
um and not in the sense of like my partner Roberto has since the start treated me with respect, treated me with love, treated me with um yeah, his devotion. Like it's like those things didn't change, but what did change was that um the shift went from, I think for me, this kind of like fantasy to a very sober reality. This fantasy of like, oh, it's going to be XYZ way. And then when it's a different way, which looks like, yeah, actually it's like your partner is not able to meet every single one of your needs when you need it. Your partner is going to disappoint you. And not because he's a bad partner, but because he's a human being. And when you're two new parents, you are so stretched beyond your wits. Like, I mean, it really depends on your situation, but like for us, like it's like we were sleep deprived. We also have I have my stepson, so like our schedule literally completely shifted every week, halfway through the week. So it's like we had these adversities. We're entrepreneurs. I was no longer working in the same role, so now everything is on Roberto. So there's like this dramatic shift in responsibility, this dramatic shift in capacity, and yet there's still two people that are going, well, I still want time with you,
mhm,
but my cup is empty, but your cup is empty, but I need you to pour into me, but I can't pour into you. Okay, well, now what? Right? So there became this, that's where that fantasy popped. And it became this real recognition of like, there's a reason why there was the village, and there's a reason why we had so much support. We were not meant to parent in isolation like this. This is like a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution and of war. But
mhm,
200, 100 years ago, people were much more proximal, and they were living with their elders, and they were living with their sisters and their cousins. And it was far more common to be living alongside people, and life was so different. I mean, like life was about literally surviving. It was about harvesting food and making it through the winter. Like it wasn't about having your brand on social media and, getting your kid in daycare, right? It was like, so we really had to, one, get really honest about the support we needed and not feel bad about that. And unfortunately, I think a lot of moms they resist getting support from like a caregiver or a babysitter or nanny or what have you, because they say, oh, like it's not needed. I should be able to do that.
Mm.
Well, that in itself is like just, there's so much to say about that. The reality is that like for me, for some moms, they're like totally content to be like, this is all I do. And that's all they want. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly acceptable. For me as an individual, that was really hard on me. I was like, such a highly sensitive person. I'm such a feminine person. I have so much I want to create and do. I want to be playing music. I want to be creating art. I want to sometimes just take a bath or go on a walk or see a friend. And as much as I love my children, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in motherhood is that the same way that an artist should not attach to their artwork, it's like a creator can't attach their creations. All of my worth is not in my child.
Mm-hmm.
All of my role is not mom. I am still an individual. I still need to make that incredibly important and a priority, because one day my child is going to grow up, and then what's left? Right? It's like if I haven't nourished myself, then there's just this barren self that is not nourished, not expressed, and then that's where like midlife crises or marriages fall apart, because it's like you haven't prioritized yourself, and now that there's no one to prioritize, you're either trying to claw them back into your life, you're not letting your child grow up, or you are just like, you don't really have a clue. And so really admitting like, I need help. That looks like I need energy work. I need massage. I need a babysitter here twice a week. I need someone to fold my laundry for me. Cause like I can do those things, but I fucking can't stand endlessly doing laundry. And I need just a mental break from endless laundry cycles. Like giving ourselves those little breaks, and even times where sometimes having the babysitter over, and like, it's not like I'm totally exhausted or like I have a work meeting. So it's like I'm technically available. Technically, I could get up and start cleaning and being available, but to be like, no, actually, this is my sacred time where I go play guitar. This is my sacred time where I go to my friend's place and do the sauna. And to still honor those things, because as moms, we're showing our children, not by what we say, but how we take care of ourselves, what it means to take care of yourself. If our children are witnessing us and going, Mom prioritizes herself, she's still here for me, she always makes sure that there's someone who's available for me, my emotional needs are still met, but mom is an important person. That says so much more to the people you're raising than to try to do it all yourself. And so the illusion of I'm supposed to do it all, but also my partner, he should be doing it all. No. No, he's not supposed to do it all. And so it can be a bit of a tricky experience if you're trying to balance resources like time and money. But ultimately, I think that time and money are going to be spent. And so even if things are a little bit spread thin, or if things don't look the way you want to, you're having a hard time accepting like I should have more money, or I shouldn't be doing this right now, or I should be spending this time with my kids, I feel guilty. It's like, just prioritize date nights with your partner, prioritize yourself, give your partner space to prioritize themselves, because those are bricks you're laying in the foundation of your relationship, that if you don't lay those bricks, you're like on a house of cards, and it doesn't take much for that to blow over, especially as the years go on.
Yeah. So important. There's no shame, nothing wrong with doing things for yourself.
No.
So important.
Yeah. And that shame is going to come up, right? Because it's like this embedded story through the generations. So even like there's been times where like everyone is verbally validating me, physically validating. They're like, no, it's good, do this. And like going and doing the thing I want to do, there's still this feeling of like, why am I not enjoying this more? Why am I not doing this more? Right? It's like the shame story bubbles up, and there can be that desire to be like, I'm just gonna I'll just go home and like rage clean, whatever it is, right? But those are the signals and like the everyday experiences that are kind of those opportunities to pause and go like, oh yeah, this is the rewriting is right now. And this is how I rewrite the story for myself, for my future children, and specifically for my daughters.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Amazing. And when it comes to your sex life, I'd love to, if you're open to sharing, I'd love to hear a little bit about this. And I know that you work with a lot of moms as well. So perhaps you can also just speak more generally about sex with kids, how to prioritize it, what shifts, because this is one thing I've, this is a comment I've gotten a lot from people is, well, just wait till you have kids. Easy
Mm.
for you to say, prioritizing intimacy, easy for you to say, you don't have kids. And totally, I get that. I don't know what that experience is. But my intention is to work within our new constraints, our new reality to continue to prioritize. Um, but I can't speak from experience. So I'd love to hear from you about, yeah, your personal experience, how you help women do that or how you help couples do that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so first I'll start by saying that I had an amazing doula. You've happened to have met her, Nancy.
Oh, she was your doula too? I actually
Yes,
just published a podcast episode with her.
she's
She's amazing.
she's magnificent.
Yeah.
So I remember her saying to me, she said, Amanda, I want you to understand that when you have a baby, you will have a different body. It's like, not without like the stories or the stigmas of what it means to be a virgin, but she's like, it's like your body is a virgin in the sense that you are working with something that is just totally unknown.
Mm.
And to not judge it, to just be again in the acceptance of like, I'm learning a new body, I'm learning a new rhythm. And that was I think a really good frame for me to know, and also to communicate to my partner to say like, and also for me to say to him, because there was a lot of my own fears of like, just some of the societal or stigmas that kind of come up around women after having babies and sex and stuff. And I said to Roberto, I said, would you be okay if like we just didn't have sex for a year? And he kind of was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, like, I just want to put this out here that like, what if it was like too hard for me, or just, it was just something I could not give, if I just couldn't have sex for a year, would that be okay with you? And he was like, it would definitely test me and it would be not comfortable, but he's like, but absolutely it would be okay. And like, I would still love you and I would not put that on you. And he's like, if it was like prolonged forever, that would be a problem. I would still expect us to like put work into to create an opportunity to go there. But he's like, but the reality is, he's like, you're whatever you need and your body needs, like there's no timeline. So that was a very reassuring,
Mm.
a reassuring, like, okay, yeah, like it's
It's
okay.
like
Like,
take the pressure off.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to be all right. Um, so it was, I think about 6 months, actually. We were 6 months in to having our postpartum experience. And that was when we started having sex again. Like it took time. And it wasn't
Mhm.
just about my body's physical healing. It was like, I was so fucking exhausted. Like there's just no room.
Mhm.
There's no room to be like, oh, it's sexy, it's fun. Like I was just, we were just both so exhausted. So what we really needed again was making sure we had those supports to say, okay, like we have someone available to watch our son. For a long enough time, like, like an hour was not sufficient. Like I'm like, we need
Mhm.
like an afternoon. We need time to like de-armor, let the body come down from like the stress state and
Get
to,
out of baby mode
yeah. And
into your bodies.
that wasn't easy because I mean, even though I was like, everything's fine, everything's good. Like it's in those, in that year following birth, like my brain was just totally hijacked and focused on a child. And it's
Mhm.
actually 100% normal and
Makes a lot of
an
sense.
evolutionary bias. Like it's meant
Yeah.
to be that. You're not meant to be thinking of having sex with your partner. You're meant to be thinking of your baby's safety like 24/7, 365. So it was something that once we were able to create the space for it and like a appropriate, adequate space, it became something that we were really like, okay, without the pressure of like every day or whatever, it was like, what if we had this opportunity once a month? What if we had this opportunity like then building up to every 2 weeks and just having these like very manageable milestones of building back the time and the space for that intimacy?
Hey, I'm popping in one more time to tell you about the program that Matt and I created for couples, the Conscious Intimacy Program. The feedback we get from couples who take this program is amazing. Just the act of committing to the program together and starting those first few lessons is enough to bring a whole new vibe to your intimacy. This program will help you create a whole new approach to intimacy. It's not just about sex, but also about building a foundation of deep connection and great communication that will support your relationship to thrive. So if you're ready for a relationship reboot or you want to take your sex life to the next level, then find the link in the description for the Conscious Intimacy Program and dive in.
And, even like kudos if you can like go to a hotel and like be in a space where like you don't see your laundry, everything is clean, you're not responsible for anything. It's like you have just this like white canvas of a space to be totally in a different space. And setting intentions like through like a calling in the four directions, calling in these elements of magic and tantra to say like, okay, like we have the incense burning, there's candles lit, there's the water elements of the essential oils, right? Whatever it is, like having all of these different earthly elements and then calling in source and saying like, please provide us with this like container of magic and help us build through your creation, whether that looks like, P and V sex, or it looks like some other form of energetic exchange, whatever that is. Because sometimes we'd go to have sex and I would just like lie there and cry and he would just hold me. And that was in my mind, I'm like, that was like sex. Like that was orgasmic for the both of us. Cause he was like, just seeing you like peel off those layers. He's like, that's to me just as great. Right. So
it's devotion again,
yeah.
right? Devotion to what is true, what is alive. Like intimacy can look so many ways. It's not just sex. And I think the attachment to the idea of sex and intimacy has to look a certain way can really create a lot of this pressure, expectation, and then shame when when things do shift and when our bodies don't feel like having sex, and to reframe intimacy as like just true deep connection and just a devotion to what is alive right now, to being connected to each other, whatever that looks like, to just seeing each other deeply. Like that's what we really want anyways, right? It's like, yeah, there's the physical pleasures, sure, but what's the most satisfying thing is being just deeply seen. And the connection of each of us just revealing ourselves to each other and seeing each other. It's like, what is better than that?
And I think like there's some times where like we would go to bed and we'd like just kind of like lay on the pillow and like look at each other and we'd be like, hey, oh yeah, hey, there you are. Like it's like we're just passing through the day and it's like, okay, I need you for this diaper change. Can you okay, nap time? Like we started to get into these structured schedules and they were working, but we were just so tired. And sometimes just those little rituals and having like a moment to connect in the day or just like eating a meal together, those were some really big moments for us. And yeah, building into a space of, I mean, everybody's journey through sex is so different, right? Especially postpartum. Like it's not as easy as saying like, this is the path. But I think I mean, a big key factor in that is of course, like how safe you are with your partner in terms of like how the both of you practice safety for your vulnerability and intimacy, for your shame, for the things that we ultimately have a hard time accepting. And also to just know that it's not going to be like that forever. Like this is just a moment in time. It's such a small moment, and you're going to have, availability to do more in later months or even years. And it really actually was quite liberating in a lot of ways too, to be like, yeah, like I don't exist for my partner just because I'm having sex with him or just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm providing with a child. Like I, just who I am is enough, and the connection we have is enough. And to then also get to know your partner differently. Like, I mean, I remember one time saying to him, I'm like, at the end of the day, like we're actually two different people now. And it's kind of like we have to date again. Like we have to go back to square one and be like, who is this person who I'm meeting? And as the years are passing, we're seeing these two very artistic people come out, and we're starting to see that there's actually this side to each other that we haven't seen totally unhinged. We haven't seen each other like fully follow the path of the artist. And that's really exciting to go, oh, like there's someone new that I get to meet and get to explore with and get to like play in the energy with, right? So it's also recognizing that your partner is also going through a contraction.
Mm-hmm.
Because with women, like we have the 9 months of physically holding, and when we birth, it's like you're stepping through the door, right? It's like you're now like, this is happened.
Mm-hmm.
And for men, that can be a little bit like, they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, baby's coming. Okay. But they don't really get it. It's like, once the baby is there, they're like, oh, shit, like there's a baby. It's like, yeah, man, I've been cooking this baby for 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings me back to the concept. One of my just favorite ideas and practices in relationship is discovering each other. And I think that can be a continual practice. Like, I don't want to know my partner. I want to continue to discover him,
Hmm.
and practicing that just all the time. I think is really great preparation for these big transitions, because I'm practicing not being attached to who I think my partner is.
Yeah.
And there's a freshness and an excitement that comes with continually rediscovering each other.
It's really true, right? Like, I remember maybe it was Esther Perel that was talking about how like the key to maintaining passion in a relationship is mystery,
Hmm.
and how like we can get so fixated on knowing our partner and we think that we know everything about them, and that like can just flatline our desire because we're like, there's nothing novel. It's the
Hmm.
same person, right? It's the same scenario. But when you can instead see your partner as someone who's ever evolving, and also the self-fulfilling prophecy of like when you're witnessing someone and going, you are always evolving, you are always changing, you're becoming even more of yourself, right? That devotion to being like, they're discovering their greatness. Well, just by believing that about them, they inherently will start to discover themselves differently. They'll start to show more of themselves because you're a safe place for that energetically. So then you're like, this is awesome, like show me more, and it's exciting. um and getting to like high five each other and be like, yeah, like way to go, like way to achieve your goals, or way to like let that part of you that's been like hidden all your life come out, like, oh my god, like this is a new you. Like it's like getting to celebrate each other in those ways, as I think what also fortifies that foundation that lets you go through everything together.
Hmm. Totally. Yeah. And then another thing that comes to mind that I feel like would support these kinds of transitions is just the perspective from which you approach sex in general. Like, practicing, for us, I'm always focused on practicing no expectations, right?
Mm.
No expectations, and truly accepting what is. And it reminds me, you talked about like rediscovering a new body, and kind of like, having this whole new body, having to rediscover your pleasure all over again, fresh. Um, and I feel like, okay, I think I can do that because I've already done that once before.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I got into this work in the first place, was numbness and not having a connection to my sexuality. So I went through the process of okay, let me explore and discover and, create a relationship with my body. And the foundation of that is really releasing expectation and truly, truly accepting where my body was at
Mm-hmm.
in every moment. And that just saying yes and saying yes and saying yes over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's a good preparation and experience to draw on as I, enter that new body
Yeah.
and rediscovering. And this is also why I think the work of embodiment and sacred sexuality and all these things are such great preparation for motherhood.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I feel like it's like the training grounds, and then you're in it, and you're like, now the work really begins.
The rubber hits the road.
Yeah. Totally. I find too, like one of the biggest things that's helped me in terms of my sexuality and navigating my desire, because ultimately, like when you're first postpartum, you don't have your cycle. Like you're
Mhm.
kind of like in this liminal space of like every day is, well, it's all just a confusing mess because you're trying to now. Once you think you're like, I got this, something happens and changes, and you're like, I don't got this. So it just, the year is kind of like just scrap it. But once you get out of that year and you, or at the time that you get your cycle back, I remember having so much reverence for my moon and being like, wow, I'm so glad that I have my cycle back, because now my body is at a place where it's healing and it's saying, I want to be hormonally stable. I want to create that stability. And so I've said to my kids, I'm like, listen, women are 4 different people in 1 month.
Yeah.
So like once we understand that, and especially teaching our sons and our men, like you have 4 different people you're working with. And now I have like on a whiteboard in my kitchen, it's like, here's my follicular phase, here's my ovulation, here's my luteal, and here's my moon.
I love
And
it.
to make
Yeah.
it like publicly seen, and to also make it like a continuous education, because I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've informed them on what these things mean, and they're like, okay, wait, what's this mean again? It's like, no problem. Most women don't even apply this, right? So, but being able to know how we actually relate to our desire and like what kind of things we want in which phase of our cycle is also huge in our sexual connection. So, like in our follicular phase, we are in that maiden archetype. There's much more of that creative energy. There might be more desire. There might be more desire to be even like explorative or be in a more innocent, like playful space. Whereas when you're ovulating, I joke with my husband. I'm like, when I'm ovulating, like we need to be careful, because it's a time when like it can be like we're going off the rails. Like it could be
Yeah.
anything, right? So it's a time of really deep explorative play, even role play. It could be time of like very kinky play. A lot of like even but just deep, powerful energy in the feminine field, right? And
Hmm.
again, that can look like anything. In the luteal phase, it's a good time because it's our time of our inner autumn. And it's when things are like typically very mentally stimulated, but physically we're like tired. So we could have like this task list of all the things we need to get done, but not the energy to go through it all. So it's a good time for like really simple, like task and reward behaviors, and being able to like, I have like a really cool game that was gifted to me uh, called Burning Desires.
Hmm.
And it's basically like everything in the game is like, do this for 1 minute, try this for 1 minute if your partner wants, right? So it's like these very like simple, like, all right, just 1 minute of this thing, and then you stop. And it's like, huh, like it's like just tasks. And I find that like it's a really good way to just get through sometimes the mental chatter or like the nerves or the like, oh, I don't have the room for this, or I'm just like, you're trying to de-armor, but you're in your head so much.
Hmm.
You're given like a strategy, and then by the end you're like, oh, that really worked.
Hmm.
And then in your moon, it's like, I mean, it's a time of contraction, so it's not typically a time where like, I mean, it's not the time to go like spank your partner's ass. It's not the time to like make that like perverted joke. I mean, maybe it is, but for me, I'm like, listen, know your audience. Like, this is a time of like, I just want like cuddles and like tenderness and sweetness and like help me to take care of me. And so it's like knowing these different times, it's like you can then as a partner also navigate such a different experience with your partner if you know where they're at in their cycle. And if you know that you're like, okay, my woman is luteal, don't ask her what's for dinner. Take the kid and like just be like, I'm gonna put him to bed, and then just like be like, you're gonna go do this, and it's like, okay, thanks. Like, it's not a time to like outsource that masculine role to your partner when they're already taxed, right? So it's like knowing those little things can also support in the parenting journey and knowing kind of just the best timing of things.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's truly a superpower when we fully understand our cycles and how to like embrace and leverage the gifts of each phase of the cycle. And when our partners and our kids, I love that idea too, can really understand that, man,
Yeah,
things are so much smoother because you're right.
exactly.
The thing that works during ovulation is not necessarily welcome in your moon time. And
Exactly.
really helpful. And for our partners, it's so helpful for them to know that because they truly do just, they want to support and they want to help. And it can be confusing if they don't have this information.
Yes,
So yeah, I'm all about that. That's amazing.
totally.
Yeah. Well, as we start to come toward the end of our time, I feel like we could just keep going on a million different subjects here. But is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you're just really wanting to get out there?
I mean, when I brought this topic to you, it was because I'll try to keep this as concise as possible because we're at the top of the hour. But um, this topic came through for me because I was reminded of a time well before I had children where I went to a yoga teacher training in Montreal. My friend was hosting a kirtan, and she said, "Would you like to come?" I said, "That sounds really fun." And she explained, kirtan is the yoga of devotion, and it is this outpouring of worship and gratitude and thanks to the creator. And as we are pouring that out, we are back in the frequency of receivership because it's that like what appreciates. So if you're like, thank you for my life, thank you for this blessing, thank you. It's like life is like, yes, you are being thanked, you are being blessed, you're receiving from that. I remember being in that training and it was like a 3-hour workshop. And by the end, I remember just like in the chanting, I was just like swaying back and forth and my insides were vibrating. Like I could feel my cells recalibrating. And it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced because it felt like I was high, but I was just singing.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, like right, just continuing that path and wanting to dive deeper at the time, but not really knowing how. As time has gone on, I've been really sitting in much deeper ceremony and with sacred plants and with these beautiful prayers from all around the world. Sanskrit, um, French, English, Spanish, like all these different Icaros, all these beautiful different experiences of praying to the Creator and just speaking the blessings of like, thank you for the life you've given. Thank you for these good days and bad days and these great times and hard times. And thank you for your devotion to me and my journey and creating and weaving a very intrinsic or a very extensive like map for me to follow that only I can know by going in, which to me is just like, there's nothing more magnificent. And like we could spend eternity just like contemplating how amazing that is. And the fact that we don't, to me, is like, wow, like that is happening all the time.
All the time.
And it was this New Year's that I was able to sit in a beautiful ceremony. And it was the first time that I really felt myself at an embodied level really open to the devotion in a whole new way of just feeling my heart like expand into a gratitude, right? Because it was like I was in this discomfort, I was feeling this pain, and I just was like, you know what? Like, what if I just accepted that this is my experience? And what if I could just be so grateful, truly grateful? Not like this like surface gratitude of like, oh, thank you, but really being like, this is here for me. This is here to teach me. And I felt it was like I was orgasmically birthing myself for
Mm.
8 hours.
Wow.
And that was a really powerful transmission for me because my birth, that's what I wanted in my birth and I didn't have. And birth was a really intense experience for me. One that, again, when you're on the before it happens, there can be all kinds of preparation, but you just have no idea what you're in for. And it was we get the birth we need. And a friend of mine who's a midwife said birth is meant to fragment you. It's meant to break you into a new person.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see from before is that the person I broke into was someone who needed control and didn't realize how much that was happening. And now that devotion has softened me into someone who's like, maybe you just don't have any control. But what you can control is your gratitude for the fact that it's even happening in the first place. Because the fact that you're in this body, the fact that you're in this experience is a blessing, whether you can see it or feel it or not. And the gift of life is the most sacred gift, because you know that from giving life. You know how sacred that is, that sacrifice to give, right? So my life now feels like a constant, like I'm like, how can I embody that every day? How can I be in this, like, thank you so much for this, whatever this is. And it feels like magic comes from that.
Mm. Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. These have been, I've been really on a similar track, and the words for me have been savor. That's been a big word, just like savor this and this and this. Savor, and then wonder and awe. It's like every morning, that's one of my intentions right now, is just wonder and awe. To me, those are like some of the best feelings. Wonder.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just this feeling of, wow, what is this experience of
Right?
life? How am I here? How is this all just happening? This is mind-blowing. The fact that I just woke up and here I am experiencing another day.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much to be in awe of when we shift our focus, and so much to be grateful for, even when things are challenging. Just like
That's so true.
the fact that I'm here to experience this challenge. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Because sometimes the challenge we're experiencing is the thing that for actual generations, no one could hold. No one had the tools for, no one even had the awareness of. They thought that that was just it. They thought that was, oh, this is life. But you are experiencing the challenge. And instead of succumbing to reality as something that you're not in control of, you are now going, okay, this is a challenge. And like, what did everyone do before me that didn't work? And what can I do different? And pave a whole new legacy, a new path. And to know that you're like, shit, I'm capable of that. Like, that puts a whole different meaning to that challenge. That's no longer something that's a burden. That's like a sacred gift that's bestowed upon you, a sacred duty that no one else can do but you.
Mm-hmm. And it's just shift in legacy in both directions too.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how like the work that we do really does change, like create change in our parents, and then, you know, ancestors, non-living, like it we're all connected.
I know.
In this continuum that's all right now.
Right?
And that's a whole nother conversation.
I know. We'll have to do podcast number 2 and go into that. Wow.
Yeah. Well, all right. One last question. If you had everyone's attention in the whole entire world for 60 seconds or less, what would be the one message you would want them to hear?
Let's just tap in and feel that for a sec. What's coming in is that we're all God's children. And the same way that as a mother, I love my child and want the best for my child and want to give everything to my child, God wants to give everything to us. And Source wants to give everything to us. And sometimes that may not look the way we anticipate or exactly what we think it's supposed to look like, but sometimes the things that reveal themselves are actually opportunities to find the God within, the power within, and the sovereignty within to make new choices. And remember that we may not have complete control over our reality and the things that are happening to us, but we do have complete control over the reality that we create from that, the meaning that we create. And that's where like we get to play, as like our inner children get to play and be like the magicians and the magi and the witches and wizards of what we want to create here in this magical life.
Yum. So good.
Thank you so much, Cassidy, for having me. This is like
so
such
wonderful.
a full cup, you know?
Yeah, really nourishing conversation. And if anyone would like to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
The easiest way would be through my Instagram at Amanda Rassam. I also am building my TikTok at Amanda Rassam. But yeah, please reach out to me because I love when people are willing to go deep, even with like a stranger. Like I've never been like a surface level conversation person. I'm like, oh yeah, like nice to meet you. Like here's my darkness. Like it's like I want to just throw all of it, like, you know, or like here's my deepest fear. Like I want to go deep with people, and I think that the more that we can do that for each other, the better our world will be.
Amazing. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and a review and share it with the people that you care about, because we can all use a little more love in our lives. Until next time.